Close your eyes for a moment. Not physically, if that's not comfortable right now, but internally. Imagine that you are holding a map that promises to show the way to a lighter, more aligned, fuller life. You have read books, watched lectures, repeated affirmations when you wake up. You have made gratitude lists, tried to visualize your dreams, perhaps even changed your morning rituals. And still, something does not move, or it moves so slowly that it feels like you are walking in quicksand. Perhaps you are in a moment where faith begins to mix with a silent fatigue. Not that tiredness of the body that sleep resolves, but a tiredness of the soul, which comes from trying to control what cannot be controlled, from forcing doors that seem locked, from waiting for the universe to respond in your time, not in divine time. The silent pain here is not failure. It is the feeling that you are doing everything wrong, or that perhaps you are not good enough for the spiritual laws to work for you. What few teach, and what Dr. Bruce Lipton reveals with clarity, is that you can plant the most beautiful seed in the world. You can water it with positive affirmations. You can visualize it blooming every day. But if the soil where you planted that seed, and that soil is your subconscious, is full of beliefs of scarcity, fear, guilt, or abandonment, no flower will be born. Not because the universe is unfair, but because the seed needs soil that sustains it. Most people try to change the flower. This video will teach you to take care of the soil. Neville Goddard, one of the most lucid masters of creative imagination, said that the outer world is a faithful mirror of your inner imagination. And here's the trap that no one sees. Most people do not use imagination to create what they desire. They use imagination to rehearse fear. You spend 20 minutes in traffic imagining the fight you will have at home. You spend half an hour in bed before sleeping reliving an old humiliation as if it were happening now. And you feel each of these imaginations with real intensity. The universe has no sense of irony. It does not understand, I don't want to fight. It understands fight, because you felt the fight. You are not failing to manifest. You are perfectly manifesting what you rehearse every day without realizing it. And that is why law number 7, the most important among the 12 spiritual laws, is precisely the one that no one teaches correctly, because it touches the deepest wound of the human being, the illusion of control, the belief that if you do the right techniques, say the right words, light the right candles, the universe will bow to your will. But spiritual laws do not work like a vending machine. They work like a mirror. And what will be revealed here is not another technique for your lists. It is an invitation for you to stop fighting the mirror and start changing the expression on your own face. How many times have you caught yourself repeating a positive affirmation while feeling, deep in your chest, an anxiety that would not go away? You say, I am prosperous, but when you look at your bank statement, your stomach contracts. You affirm, I am loved, but in the silence of the night, an old voice whispers that you will always be left behind. This is the most painful dissonance in spiritual life. It is not a lack of faith. It is the internal division between what your consciousness wants and what your subconscious truly believes. Dr. Bruce Lipton, a scientist and reference in epigenetics, explains that the subconscious commands about 95% of your life. It is the autopilot. You can be the smartest co-pilot in the world, shouting instructions, pointing the way on the map, but if the autopilot is programmed for an old destination, usually programmed before you were 7 years old, listening to your parents, your fears, your silent beliefs, the plane is going there. No discussion. Your conscious will is the co-pilot shouting. The subconscious is the deaf commander who only obeys the old programming. The invisible mistake that most people make is believing that repeating a phrase 1,000 times will change that programming. That is not reprogramming. It is memorization. Neuroscience shows that the subconscious only learns through emotionalized repetition, not through mechanical repetition. You can say, I am calm, while your heart races with anger, and what gets recorded is not the word calm, but the racing heart. The word is wind, the emotion is cement. And what you feel for most of your day, not what you think during your meditation hour, but what you feel when you are distracted, driving, washing dishes, worrying about the future, that is the true vibrational decree. And here is the expectation breaker that can change everything. Trying to change the programming by fighting against it only strengthens it. When you force a positive thought against an old fear, the resistance creates an internal battlefield, and every battle consumes energy. The counterintuitive secret is not to eliminate negative thought. It is to deactivate its emotional charge. It is to look at the old belief as someone looking at old clothes in the closet. You do not need to tear them. You do not need to burn them. You just stop wearing them. Change does not come from confrontation. It comes from silent abandonment. Do a practical test this week. A silent test. For 7 days, without trying to change absolutely any thought. Just observe with neutrality what your subconscious says when you are distracted, when you are about to sleep, when you wake up and have not yet put on your social mask. Write down the phrases that come up. I don't have time for this. That's for others, not for me. It will go wrong again. I don't deserve to rest. These are not your opinions. These are your ancestors speaking through your mouth. These are your childhood fears dressed in an adult voice. And as long as you do not recognize whose voice this is, you will continue to think it is yours. This is the first step to changing the autopilot. Imagine a beautiful house, freshly painted walls, planned furniture, LED lights, a hanging garden. But the foundation of this house is made of wet cardboard. A weak rain, an unexpected criticism, a bill that arrived, the silence of someone you love, and the whole house trembles. You spend your life fixing cracks in the walls, buying more paint, more plants, more scented candles. But the crack always returns. Because you never looked at the foundation. The first spiritual law before any visualization, before any affirmation, is this: no one manifests from the conscious level what the subconscious has not authorized. And the worst part, your subconscious authorizes exactly what you know, even if it is suffering. The familiar, no matter how painful, is safer than the unknown. And as long as the unknown of your transformation seems more frightening than the pain you already know, the autopilot will keep taking you to the same place. There is a phrase you have probably heard hundreds of times: you attract what you are, not what you want. It sounds like a cliche, sounds repetitive, but its depth is devastating when you truly experience it. If internally you have a silent belief that love is sacrifice, you can desire a caring partner with all your soul, but your vibrational resonance will find someone who needs to be saved. Not because the universe is cruel, because the mirror can only return what you are emitting. The conscious desire asks for one thing, the subconscious frequency delivers another, and you spend years wondering why all your relationships follow the same pattern. The vibrational block that no one sees is exactly this: the belief that you already know what is true about your life. And this belief is engraved in your body, not in your mind. You can argue with the mind. You can convince the mind with logic. But the body does not listen to logic. The body listens to repetition. The body listens to safety. And if your body learned long ago that the world is dangerous, that money is dirty, that love always ends, it will continue producing the same sensations of alertness, tightness, distrust. And those sensations are your true frequency, not your beautiful speech during morning meditation. Joe Dispenza, who has studied the neuroscience of transformation for decades, points out something that changes everything. Anxiety is the most treacherous emotional addiction because it disguises itself as preparation. Your brain says, if I don't worry, I will be caught by surprise. And you believe it. So you spend hours, days, years mentally rehearsing the worst-case scenario, in detail, with vivid feelings. You feel the fall, feel the loss, feel the humiliation. And the unified field of consciousness, which has no sense of humor or irony, does not understand the no. It understands the image you are holding. If you say, I don't want to go bankrupt, but feel the fear of bankruptcy, the universe receives bankruptcy. If you say, I don't want to get sick, but feel the dread of illness, the universe receives illness. Urgency is a desperate request for the future to obey your fear, and the future, obediently, molds itself exactly to the image you feed. False performative spirituality is a silent trap that consumes a lot of people's energy. Lighting candles, taking herbal baths, repeating mantras in Sanskrit, decorating the altar with crystals. None of this is wrong. The mistake is doing all of this and continuing inside in the same state of scarcity, anxiety, and demandingness. External practice without internal change becomes energetic theater. It is like changing clothes for a party, combing your hair, putting on perfume, but continuing to sleep on the living room sofa. The universe is not impressed by gestures. It responds to states of being. And the state of being cannot be faked. You can fool the audience, friends, family, your therapist, but you cannot fool the frequency your body emits. The body is your most honest lie detector. It knows when you are at peace and when you are just pretending to be calm. To recognize your true frequency, without self-deception, you can do a simple 3-step exercise. In the first step, before sleeping, when the room is dark and silent, ask your body, what do you feel is true about my life right now? Do not think, do not analyze, do not answer with beautiful words, just feel. The first sensation that comes, a weight in the chest, a tightness in the throat, an emptiness in the stomach, a restlessness in the legs, that sensation is your base frequency. It is not a thought, it is an embodied knowing. In the second step, associate that sensation with an old memory. Ask yourself, when was the first time I felt this? Do not force the answer, just ask the question and wait. The memory that arises, often a memory you did not even remember existed, is the original file of the program. There is the scene, the age, the people, the moment when that frequency was recorded in your body as truth. In the third step, breathe into the sensation for 3 minutes, not to change it, not to push it away, just to acknowledge it. Breathe as if you were blowing warm, gentle air onto a frightened child. Observe the sensation without judgment, without trying to label it as good or bad, just be with it. This simple act of loving presence begins to discharge the emotional intensity of the program. And without emotional charge, the belief loses its power to command your resonance. It is still there, like an old file, but it no longer presses the emergency button every time something moves. Nature teaches about vibrational patience in a way that the agitated mind does not want to learn. An oak seed does not become a tree because it wants to badly. It does not accelerate its growth with affirmations. It does not panic because the rain did not come at the time it planned. It simply contains the oak within itself and waits, in active trust, for the right conditions. Not a passive trust of someone who gave up. An active trust of someone who knows that the process has already begun the moment the seed touched the soil. Your manifestation also has a biological time, an energetic time. Haste is a violence against your own process. When you force, you break the root, and the root needs silence to grow. Most people give up exactly 3 days before the root touches the water, not because it was not meant to happen, because they did not know how to wait in the dark. And we reach the heart of this video, law number 7, the most important among the 12 spiritual laws, and also the most misunderstood. Most people teach that emotional coherence means feeling good all the time, that you need to vibrate high, always be in joy, radiate light, never feel anger, never feel sadness, never feel fear. That is not coherence. That is spiritual repression. And repression does not transform anything. It silently makes the body sick. True emotional coherence is the integrity between what you feel inside and what you express outside, without self-deception. If you are sad and allow yourself to feel sadness without guilt, without trying to change it, without calling sadness a low vibration, that is coherence. The problem is not sadness. The problem is sadness pretending to be joy. This falsification fragments your energy. You spend more strength hiding an emotion than feeling it. And the energy you spend on masks is not available to create, to heal, to manifest. It is trapped in the theater. The most silent emotional trap in the spiritual milieu is toxic positivity. How many times have you heard phrases like, "You cannot vibrate low, push away what is not light. The fault is yours for being at that frequency. If you are suffering, it is because you chose it." That is not spirituality. That is spiritual violence disguised as enlightenment. True law number 7, the most important, is the law of permission. You cannot force a flower to bloom by hitting it. You cannot accelerate someone's grief with catchy phrases. You can only create the soil, the water, the sun, the silence, and wait. Allow yourself to feel anger, fear, tiredness, hopelessness without it meaning you are regressing. Feeling is not failing. Feeling is integrating, and only what is integrated can be transformed. What is repressed rots inside. Greg Braden, a researcher of the unified field and heart coherence, shows something fascinating. The human heart generates an electromagnetic field 50 times larger than the field generated by the brain. And when you are in coherence, that is, when your emotions are not at war with your thoughts, this field organizes itself. It becomes a clear, coherent, stable transmitter. You become a radio station without static. Most people live in static. They want love, but fear intimacy. They want money, but associate wealth with guilt. They want health, but deeply believe they deserve punishment. This static scrambles the signal, and the universe, which is a unified field of consciousness, can only respond to what is clear, not to what is contradictory. The silent factor that most sabotages emotional coherence, especially in spiritual people, is the guilt for resting. There is a deep programming coming from a culture that values production above all else, that says resting is laziness, that silence is unproductive, that meditating for too long is a waste of time. Spiritual people often feel guilty when they are not producing their evolution. Taking courses, reading books, watching lectures, practicing techniques. But it is in rest that the nervous system regulates itself. It is in creative idleness that the subconscious reorganizes beliefs. It is in silence that the new program has space to install itself. Nature does not bloom all the time. It has winter, it has night, it has rest. The soil rests between one harvest and another. The guilt for resting is a capitalist programming dressed in spiritual clothing. Without rest, your coherence depletes. You go into survival mode, and in survival mode, you do not manifest. You only react. React to fear, react to scarcity, react to urgency. Law number 7, the most important, can be understood with a symbolic metaphor: the musician and the silence. A musician does not play all the notes all the time. If they did, it would be noise, not music. Music only exists because of the silences between the notes. It is the silence that gives shape to the sound. It is the pause that gives meaning to the melody. Your life as well. The sacred silence between your actions, between your requests, between your attempts to control, is where manifestation germinates. It is the moment when you stop trying, stop asking, stop forcing, stop checking if it has arrived yet, and just allow. And this allowing, without effort, what you truly are, not what you pretend, not what you desperately desire, but what you are, begins to resonate. And then, without an announcement, without a bang, without a sign in the sky, what was always on its way simply arrives. Not because you deserved it, not because you worked harder than others, not because you did the right technique in the right order, but because you finally stopped blocking the passage. If you have come this far, perhaps something inside you has already recognized the truth of what was said. Not a new truth brought from outside, but an ancient truth that was sleeping inside your chest. The fatigue you feel, the one that is not physical, not a tiredness from lack of sleep, but a tiredness of the soul, is the clearest sign that the old method, control, force, urgency, the attempt to force the universe to bow to your will, no longer works. And this is not failure. It is an invitation. An invitation to a new way. A way older than any technique. A way that nature already knows, that the trees already practice, that the seasons already teach. Dr. Bruce Lipton reminds us, with the clarity of someone who has studied cellular life for decades, that the subconscious is not your enemy. It is a faithful ally that merely obeys what was programmed. Your soul does not want to sabotage you. It is just trying to protect you with the old tools it received. Change does not come from war against oneself. It comes from silent and repetitive reprogramming through elevated and consistent emotional states. Not elevated in the sense of false joy, elevated in the sense of truth, of integrity, of presence. Imagine a helmsman. He does not change the ship's direction by shouting at the helm. He does not push the ship with the strength of his arms. He simply adjusts the helm 1 degree at a time, in silence, for days. And after some time, without fanfare, the ship is sailing towards a new horizon. The big turn comes from the small, constant correction. Joe Dispenza says something that can serve as a beacon for your days. The greatest act of creation is not visualizing what you want. It is becoming the person who already lives that emotionally, before the external mirror confirms it. The greatest proof of faith is not believing that something will happen. It is feeling joy for something that has not yet appeared. Most people wait to see in order to feel. The person who truly manifests feels in order to see. That is the quantum leap. It is not a hopeful belief in the future. It is a present experience of something that is still invisible. It is feeling the peace before the storm passes. It is feeling the health before the test results come out. It is feeling the love before the other person arrives. The 12 spiritual laws are not external rules that the universe created to test you. They are descriptions of how energy already works, with or without your permission, with or without your belief. Law number 7, the most important, the one that can transform everything if you understand it with the heart, is the law of detachment from the outcome, while remaining faithful to the feeling of the desire. It is the final paradox. Act as if you already have it, but without holding your breath waiting for the world to give it back. It is planting the seed and trusting the season. It is playing your note perfectly, and then being silent, knowing the echo will return, not because you shouted louder, but because you finally learned to listen. The invitation that remains at the end of this video is not for another technique, not for another course, not for another promise you make to yourself and break the following week. The invitation is for an internal truce, 1 day without war against yourself, 1 hour of gentle observation, 3 breaths before reacting, a moment of silence before asking. The invitation is not to change everything at once. It is to rest in what is already changing, silently in the dark of the soil, before any sprout appears. The transformation has already begun, not at the moment you understood law number 7 with your mind, but at the moment you recognized that control was an illusion, and that true spirituality is not about forcing the universe, it is about aligning with it. Breathe now, slowly, bring your attention back to the environment where you are. Feel your body. Thank it for having accompanied you this far. Thank yourself for having dedicated this time to your own transformation, and carry with you just one question for the coming days, not to answer now, but to let it echo inside you. What if the pain you feel today, the one you have been trying to hide or heal at any cost, is exactly the portal to the life you've always been seeking? What if you no longer need to fight against it, but just cross through it in silence, with your hand on your heart, knowing that on the other side there is not what you lost, but what you never allowed to arrive? Go in peace. And may your coherence be your greatest miracle.